Yeah, everyone can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes. Thanks, Pankti, for the introduction. Before I start my presentation, I would like to thank Vikasa for giving me this opportunity to speak on the topic which the every student, every chartered accountant aspirant wants to learn thoroughly and maybe in future wants to practice in this area, because you may be hearing from your principals, from your teachers, that this is the area in indirect tax area where in future the scope of practice will be good. You will get to learn many new things here in this field, and it can be a good field to practice in future. So let me share my presentation, then I will start. Yeah, everybody can see my presentation.
Yes, sir.
Yes, the screen sharing was on. On. Yeah. See, in recent changes in GST law, I have tried to cover the basic changes which has been come across in the last 1 year, that would help in your articleship, that will help in your practical exposure which you are getting in the office. Apart from the recent changes which I have covered, if anyone has any other questions, yeah, any other points which I have not covered, because they may be uh, the points that are, say, on the litigation side of the GST law, not on the procedural side, which I have not covered in this presentation. I've been allotted 1.5 hours, right? Around 1.5 hours. I should finish the presentation in around 1.5 hours. Okay. Yeah. Mostly, I would be covering this all 10 topics which I have selected one by one. As the presentation continues, I shall cover these 10 topics, this basic 10 topics, which are which are the recent changes in last, say, 1 year in the GST law. The first important change which has been brought into in the GST law is the QRMP scheme. Now, what is this QRMP scheme? QRMP is a quarterly return and monthly payment. As we all know, the GST was implemented from 1st of July 2017. Initially, the return filing system that was envisaged in GST law was that the supplier, the taxpayer, shall file monthly GSTR 1 return. In that GSTR 1 return, the taxpayer would give details of all its outward supply. Outward supply means the goods or services which he has sold, he has provided to his customer. The details of his sales invoices must be given in GSTR 1. Say by 10th of the next month, say for July 2017, the due date for filing GSTR 1 was 10th of August 2017. After that, as all the suppliers, all the taxpayer has filed GSTR 1, the details would be available to the corresponding recipient in GSTR 2A. Basically, GSTR 2A would contain that in the month of, say, GSTR 2A for the month of July would contain all the purchases made by the recipient. In GST, we call all the inward supplies received by the recipient. He can see the details in GSTR 2A. Then, after seeing the details in GSTR 2A, he can confirm the details in GSTR 2A by filing GSTR 2. That was the inward supplies return that was envisaged when GST was implemented. Third return was GSTR 3, which was the original monthly return which was envisaged to be filed by the SSC by 20 of the next month. For the month of July 17, by 20th August, you need to file GSTR 3, which was a complete return in itself, which would contain the outward supplies detail which was filed in GSTR 1, which would contain the inward supplies, the purchase details which was filed in GSTR 2, and the net liability of outward supplies, minor inward supplies, that liability which you need to discharge in cash, in electronic by cash payment, yeah, by check payment in GSTR 3. So this was a system which originally was envisaged in GST, GSTR 1, GSTR 2, and GSTR 3. These three returns needs to be filed monthly. But as and when the time passed, it was practically not possible for the SEC system. The GSTN network didn't supported filing of GSTR 2 and GSTR 3. Meanwhile, to solve this issue, GSTR 3B return was introduced. GSTR 3B was what we called in India Jugaad technology, which was introduced in GSTR. You file your GSTR 1, giving details of all outward supplies, and then file GSTR 3B by giving the details of outward supplies as mentioned in GSTR 1, and your credit input test rate detailed in GSTR 3B, and the net liability which you needs to be discharged. Then the 3B introduced. From July 17 to till date, that 3B is continuing. GSTR 1 is continuing. Now the small SSCs would face problem of filing GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B every month. So the government first thought of bringing a new return system. That new return system was likely to be introduced, but that was then scrapped, and then came the QRMP scheme. This is quarterly return and monthly payment scheme. This QRMP scheme has been recently introduced by Rule 61 capital A of the CGST rules. I will not go much into rule numbers and all. I will explain you the concept. This QRMP scheme has been introduced from this year itself only, that is from 1st of Jan 2021. In this scheme, instead of filing of monthly GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B, the taxpayer would file quarterly GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B. Say for the month of Jan 21, Jan, Feb, and March, combined for this quarter, you can file one GSTR 1 and one GSTR 3B. Now, instead of filing three GSTR 1, GSTR 3B, quarterly GSTR 1 and 3B has been introduced from 1st of January 2021. Now, under this scheme, the SSCs whose aggregate turnover means the total turnover, is up to rupees 5 crores in the preceding financial year. So, to opt for the credit, to opt for the scheme for the current financial year 2021, if your total aggregate turnover in financial year 1920 was below 5 crores, then in the financial year 2021 you were eligible for this scheme, that is the quarterly return and monthly payment. That could be selected. But this scheme is such, if the SSC opts for this scheme, it will continue under this scheme. If the SSC opts for filing of return in quarterly, then he may continue to file its return under quarterly system only until and unless he opts out of this scheme. So that means ये scheme आपको एक बार select करना है, and then once you have selected this scheme, then you can continue filing your returns quarterly. Returns means GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B. If you are opting for new registration under GST, say you have started business now in the month of April 21, then of course you will opt for new GST registration. Yeah, there is a composition scheme in GST. Composition scheme means instead of paying tax at the normal rate of say 5%, 12%, 18%, which is the normal rate applicable to goods, and standard rate of 18% applicable to services, as per section 10 of the CGST Act, an SSC can opt for composition scheme. Composition scheme means lump sum he need to pay 1% or 2% tax depending on the type of taxpayer if his turnover is below 1.5 crores. Lump sum payment needs to be made 1% and 2% without claiming of input tax credit. Input tax credit means the tax which you have paid on your purchase will not be available in the composition scheme. So say you were in the composition scheme under GST law. Now your turnover is say more than 1.5 crores. You have to opt out of the composition scheme. After opting out of composition scheme, you can select QRMP scheme if your aggregate turnover is below 5 crores. So this can be selected if you want. Now, as I told, you can opt in or opt out of the QRP scheme. Now, government has given a time limit to opt in and opt out of the scheme. Question and answers we can put at the last. That will be more convenient. After I complete my presentation, then at last we can take all the question and answers. We will allot 15-20 minutes for that. Now, for time limit to opt composition scheme is, say if you want to opt for composition scheme for the quarter April, May and June 21. From the quarter April 21, you want to opt for composition scheme, then you can opt for composition scheme after 1st February 21 till 30th April 21. 1 फरवरी 2021 मतलब इसके प्रीसीडिंग क्वार्टर के सेकेंड मंथ. April, May, June 21st is the current quarter. The preceding quarter was Jan, Feb, March 21. उसका second month मतलब 1st Feb. From 1st Feb to 30th April is the timeline given between which the taxpayer can opt for quarterly return filing if he wants. So for example, I have given for April to June, I've already discussed from 1st of Feb 21 to 30th April. So in the next quarter, July to September, you want to opt to composition for quarterly filing and monthly payment scheme, then you can opt between 1st of May 2021 to 30th July 2021. Similarly for October to December quarter and Jan to March quarter. So the timeline is the second month of the preceding quarter till the end of first month of the current quarter. You can opt for this scheme. If your turnover exceeds 5 crores, if your aggregate turnover exceeds 5 crores, then in the preceding quarter, you need to opt out of the scheme. Say I exceed my turnover of 5 crores in the second quarter, July by September 21st, my turnover is say 6 crores. Then from October onwards, I cannot opt for quarterly filing of returns. I need to compulsory opt for monthly filing of returns. As the name suggests, it is quarterly filing but monthly payment. Quarterly return QRMP is monthly payment. Payment of tax needs to be done monthly. Government cannot wait 3 months for taxes. They want the taxes monthly. So tax payment needs to be done on monthly basis only. Now for monthly basis, the tax payment needs to be done by a challan, that is PMT06. That is the challan number which online you can create challan in the GSTN portal. So the payment needs to be done monthly through PMT06 challan. The payment can be done by 25th of the succeeding month. Say for the month of April 21, you need to get the payment done by 25th of May 2021. Now the government has given an option, this challan payment, how much to pay. This calculation can be done based on two methods. First method is a fixed sum method, which the government has notified. Or second, the self-assessment method. Self-assessment method is very simple. For the month of April 21, what's your outward sales liability? What your credits which you are getting in your inward supplies, inward supplies? So sales tax on tax on your sales minus ITC on your purchases, the net liability you pay by 25th of the next month, or fixed sum method. We will discuss the fixed sum method in the coming slides. No need to deposit this taxes if you have sufficient balance in electronic cash or credit ledger. What is this electronic cash and electronic credit ledger? This is the ledgers which have been created in the GSTN portal. See, your cash ledger is like your Paytm wallet. The amount you deposit to the government comes in your cash ledger, like your Paytm wallet. The amount you deposit from your bank to the Paytm comes in your Paytm wallet. Similarly, it is a cash ledger wallet. The amount you deposit through bank comes to your cash ledger, and the amount of credit you take in your purchases comes to the electronic credit ledger. So these are the two ledgers which have been maintained in the GSTN system. If you already have sufficient balance in electronic cash and electronic credit ledger, sufficient balance means the tax liability which is there in a particular month. Say in April 21, our tax liability comes to rupees 1 lakh, and you have balance in an electronic cash and credit ledger 1 lakh rupees, then no need to deposit any taxes. No need to file PMT 06 challan. So no deposit required if sufficient balance is there. The payment through PMT 06 under this scheme needs to be done by selecting the type of challan as monthly payment for quarterly taxpayer. When you when you create challan, the GSTN portal will itself ask whether you want a monthly payment for quarterly taxpayer challan or any other payment. So you need to select it as monthly payment for quarterly taxpayer. This selection is only for first 2 months of the quarter. Say for April and May only this option is there. In third quarter, a normal challan will be created. No need to select that it is monthly payment for quarterly taxpayer or any other challan. This is only for the first 2 months of the quarter. Once you pay the challans, pay the PMT 0, pay the tax by challan in form GST PMT 06, then that payment can be used only and only for filing of GSTR 3B for that quarter or payment of tax for that quarter. Normally, say if we deposit any amount, it appears in electronic cash ledger. That payment, that amount lying in your electronic cash ledger can be used anywhere. Anywhere means, say if any liability for previous year or previous quarter is there, then you can pay through that cash ledger. If any liability comes through departmental audit, you can pay through cash ledger. But the amount paid by selecting monthly payment for quarterly taxpayer system, then that amount will be used only for payment of tax for that particular quarter only. It cannot be used elsewhere. After filing of GSTR 3B for that quarter, for April, May, June quarter, you have filed your GSTR 3B return. After filing the return, if any amount is left, it can be used in subsequent quarters or it can be used for any other payment, as I discussed. So this can be done. So this is your quarterly return and monthly filing. Now, as I told in starting of my presentation, that whatever GSTR 1 I file, all the invoices are reflected to the recipient in GSTR 2A, correct? All the credits are reflected in GSTR 2A. Now, the government has brought a rule 36.4, which I will discuss in the presentation, that if your amount of credit is reflected in GSTR 2A plus some buffer amount is given, then only the credit can be taken. If I am taking credit, say now, in the month of, I am filing the return for the month of March 21, say now on 20th April 2021, I need to see my GSTR 2A. What is the amount of credit available in GSTR 2A? Then on based on that only I can take credit. Now say from the now say I want to take credit in the month of April 21, but my vendor from whom I have purchased the goods and services are of quarterly return filing, as I opted for quarterly return filing. Now the credit will not be reflected in my April 21 GSTR 2A. Then I would not be eligible for credit because of the new rule 36(4) which have been inserted. That's why the government has given a facility to the quarterly return filers that you will file your GSTR1 after 3 months. No need to wait for 3 months. You can upload your invoices in invoice furnishing facility. So invoice furnishing facility has been given to the quarterly filers. Sir, no need to wait your no need to wait till the end of the quarter for uploading your sales invoice. You can upload your invoices in IFF, invoice furnishing facility. So this invoice furnishing facility has been introduced for quarterly filers. This is available for first and second month of the quarter. Of course, by third, after end of the third month of the quarter, you would be eligible to file your GSTR1 itself. Then why need of IFF in the third month? So this is available for first and second month of the quarter, that a registered taxpayer who has opted for quarterly return filing can upload their invoices in IFF. Uploading of invoices can be done between 1st to 13th of the succeeding month. Say for the month of April 21, I need to file IFF, then I can file it before 13th of May 2021. I can upload my invoices. This is an optional facility which is given to quarterly return filers so that their corresponding recipient can get the credit easily, and the purchases done by them can be reflected in their GSTR 2A. That's why this facility has been given. But in this facility, a limit has been booked. What is the limit? 50 lakh rupees in each month. You cannot upload your invoices in IFF more than worth rupees 50 lakhs. Up to 50 lakhs, you can upload the invoices in IFF, invoice furnishing facility. As I discussed, this facility has been provided to allow the supplies to be reflected in GSTR 2A and 2B. We will discuss both 2A and 2B in the coming slides. This is an optional facility. If you have uploaded your invoice in IFF, invoice furnishing facility, then there is no requirement to upload those invoices again in your GSTR1, because say for the month of April and May, you have uploaded the invoice in IFF. Then in the month of June, there is no requirement to again upload the same invoice in GSTR1, because once you have already uploaded your invoice in invoice furnishing facility. So that can be done. This I have already, this fixed sum method I have told I will discuss later. As I told, there was two methods for payment. One is the fixed sum method, and second is the self-assessment method. In fixed sum method, amount to be paid would be 35% of the liability of the preceding quarter. That means, say for the quarter Jan, Feb, March, your liability was rupees 100. Then for the month of April 21, you need to pay rupees 35 as liability before 25th of May 2021. Now, no need to compute your actual liability each month. You can lump sum pay 35% of the tag liability which you have discharged in the previous quarter and get free. Say in the previous quarter, you have selected monthly return and you are opting for quarterly returns first time in April 21. then the amount of tax paid by you in the month of March 21 can be paid in April 20 as an April 21 liability by filing of Challan PMT 06. So 100% of the tax paid in the previous month, if you have filed your previous month return by selecting monthly taxpayer only, and 35% of the liability of the previous quarter if you have selected for previous quarter. This is the fixed sum method which government has prescribed. If you are paying the tax by fixed sum method, say you have paid 35 rupees as liability in the month of for the month of April 21, and the actual liability comes to rupees 50, then the government will not charge you interest on difference rupees 15. 15 रुपए पे गवर्नमेंट इंटरेस्ट चार्ज नहीं करेगी, क्योंकि आपने फिक्स सम मेथड में 35 रुपीज पे कर दिया था. तो वो 15 रुपए जो आप अप्रैल का डिफरेंशियल लाइबिलिटी डिस्चार्ज करोगे, जब आप जून का अप्रैल में जून क्वार्टर का जीएसटीआर 3 भी फाइल करोगे, तो भी गवर्नमेंट आपसे इंटरेस्ट नहीं मांगेगी, बिकॉज यू ऑप्टेड फॉर फिक्स सब मेथड. फॉर पेमेंट इन ईच मंथ एनी ऑफ द टू मेथड्स कैन बी सेलेक्टेड. देयर इज नो रिस्ट्रिक्शन कि आपने अगर पिछले क्वार्टर में फिक्स सम मेथड किया है तो आपको अगले क्वार्टर में फिक्स सम मेथड ही फॉलो करना है. आप अगले क्वार्टर में सेल्फ असेसमेंट मेथड में भी जा सकते हो, ऐसा कोई रिस्ट्रिक्शन गवर्नमेंट ने नहीं दिया. तो if you have filed your GSTR1 quarterly, okay, you can upload your invoices in IFF monthly between 1st to 13th of the succeeding month, and you can file your GSTR 3B return quarterly before 22nd or 24th of the succeeding month. This 22nd and 24th has been divided between states. So for the state of Gujarat, the due date is 22nd of the succeeding quarter. Amount deposited in first and second month can be utilized here. Okay. We can take the question and answer relating to QRMP scheme. I think so. Let's do some interaction. That would be better. If any question is there on QRMP scheme, then we can ask now only. Or we should continue. Yes.
So I think we should continue.
Okay. Then we will continue. This is also an interesting rule which have been inserted recently from 1st of January 21, that if you have not furnished your GSTR 3B for the preceding 2 months, अगर आपने अपने पिछले 2 महीने के GSTR 3B सबमिट नहीं किए हैं, then you cannot file your monthly GSTR 1. Say for February and March, my GSTR 3B is pending, then for the month of April, I will not be able to file my GSTR 1 return. Why this is done? गवर्नमेंट ने ऐसा क्यों किया कि अगर आपने GSTR 3B फाइल नहीं किया है तो आप GSTR 1 भी नहीं फाइल कर पाओगे? Because GSTR 1 is nothing but the statement of your outward supplies. Once you furnish your GSTR 1, the recipient would able to see your invoices which were uploaded in GSTR 1 in his GSTR 2A. He can claim credit. He would claim credit based on your 2A. So in order to let the recipient avail the credit, you file your GSTR 1, but you don't pay tax in GSTR 3B, then government would be at a loss. Therefore, the government has put a condition: first you pay your tax and then file GSTR 1 for the succeeding month. This has been done for quarterly GSTR 1 also. If the preceding quarter GSTR 3B is left, then you cannot file your GSTR 1 quarterly or invoice, or cannot upload your invoices in IFF for the subsequent quarter. Say for registered taxpayer who are restricted under Rule 86B. What is Rule 86B? We shall discuss in the coming slides. Just remember, if you are restricted under Rule 86B and you have not furnished your GST 3B for the preceding period, for the preceding month or preceding quarter, अगर आपने फाइल नहीं किया अपना GST 3B, तो भी आप अपने नेक्स्ट क्वार्टर में या नेक्स्ट मंथ में GSTR 1 नहीं फाइल कर पाओगे. Next important change which have been come under the GST regime is e-invoicing. E-invoice. Now what is e-invoice? E-invoice ऐसा नहीं है कि आपको गवर्नमेंट के साइट में इनवॉइस बनाना है, नहीं. इनवॉइस विल बी मेड इन योर सॉफ्टवेयर ओनली. अगर आप टैली यूज कर रहे हो तो आप टैली में ही अपना इनवॉइस बनाओगे, या आपने ईआरपी सिस्टम यूज कर रहे हो, यू विल मेक योर इनवॉइस इन योर सॉफ्टवेयर ओनली. दैट इनवॉइस which you have created in your software, the details from that invoice will be uploaded in the government portal, e-invoicing portal. And after uploading of that details of your invoices through your software to the e-invoice portal, the e-invoice portal will generate an IRN number. IRN is invoice reference number, and will generate a QR code. So that QR code and that IRN generated in the e-invoice portal by the government has to be reflected in your tax invoice. Normally, when you prepare your tax invoice, up to the date of implementation of e-invoice, you simply prepare your tax invoice in your software and give it to the customer, give it to the receiver of your goods and services. But after implementation of e-invoice, it is you need to prepare your invoice, upload the details in the government portal, that is the e-invoice portal, and from there generate an IRN number and QR code, print that QR code in your invoice, and that invoice must be given to the customer. That is basically an e-invoice. So that e-invoice was initially introduced for the taxpayer whose aggregate turnover, whose total turnover was above 500 crores from 1st of October 2020. Initially, they expanded the scope of the SSC, and the turnover reduced from 500 crores to 100 crores from 1st of January 2021 this year. Now, from the 1st of April 21, the turnover is further reduced to 50 crores. Say, if any SSC, any taxpayer whose turnover is above 50 crores in any of the preceding financial years, from financial 17-18, the 17-18, 18-19, 19-20 या 20-21, कोई भी साल में, any of the preceding financial year amount is more than 50 crores, then in that case, e-invoicing will be mandatory from him. So the notified class of person as on today is the SSCs whose turnover is more than 50 crores. They need to prepare an invoice and upload the specified particulars of that invoice on the invoice registration portal, IRP portal of the government, and obtain an IRN, invoice reference number, with QR code. So that is an e-invoice as per Rule 48 sub Rule 4 of the CGST rules 2017. So that e-invoice needs to be generated from 1st of April 21. That e-invoice needs to be generated for which all supplies? For your B2B supplies. B2B supplies means for business to business supplies. When your recipient is registered with GST and you are also registered with GST, then it is B2B supplies. That means for B2C supply, if you are supplying goods or providing service to a customer who is not registered under GST, then for that customer or for that invoice, e-invoice is not mandatory and not required. Yeah, you will not be able to generate. As I say, you will not be able to generate. It is for only B2B invoices. It is applicable for supplies made to SEZ unit. What is SEZ unit? A special economic zone unit, a unit located in an SEZ area, a special economic zone area. If you are supplying to an SEZ unit, then also invoice is required. Exports. For exports, if you are sending any goods outside India, outside territory of India, invoice will be required. For deemed export, also e-invoice will be required. Now, what is deemed export? Can any of the student, can any of the participant explain me what do you mean by deemed export? Yes,
So
anyone?
may I?
Yes,
When the goods are supplied to SEZ, they are not going out of India, but in India. But SEZ are considered to be the a particular place where it is a foreign place. So when selling a goods to SEZ unit, it will be considered as deemed export.
selling the goods to SEZ unit, I have separately covered. Selling of goods to SEZ unit, yes, selling of goods outside India, it is zero rated supply. That is termed as zero rated supply as per section 16 of the IGST Act. That is a zero rated supply. That is not a deemed export. Anyone else can try?
Sir, may I?
Yes, yes.
So I like
Tell
to
your
give an
name
example,
first.
sir. Web of Jane, sir.
Yes.
So I would like to start with an example, sir. Example: there is a dealer A, sir, located in Rajasthan,
Okay.
sells goods to dealer B, which is an EOU.
Which is an
EOU, sir, export oriented unit.
EOU. Okay. Yeah.
So B in turn sells the goods to customer C, and the customer C is in Germany.
Okay.
So the supply A to B is treated as deemed export, and supply B to C is treated as export.
Yeah. Correct. Correct. Now that
Thank you.
means if you are supplying goods to an EOU unit, that will be treated as deemed export. One example. Second example, I would add, key say if you are supplying goods under an advance authorization scheme. What is advance authorization scheme? Or say EPGG schemes. These all are the DGFT schemes. DGFT is Director General of Foreign Trade. These are all the schemes to boost exports in India. If you are supplying under those EPCG license or advance authorization license, I will not go into much detail on that, those details, but supplying under that scheme will also be treated as a deemed export. For deemed export, the e-invoice is mandatory. For all your debits and credit notes, for all your debit and credit notes which you are selling your goods, for which you are raising it for supply of goods and services, of course debit and credit notes raised to an B2B supplier, not to B2C supplier. If you are raising a debit note to B2B supply, then only invoice is mandatory, otherwise invoice is not mandatory. So a GST invoice will be a valid invoice for the taxpayer if it holds an valid IRN number. Then only it will be a valid invoice. That means if your turnover is more than 50 crores and you have not generated your invoice, then it is not a valid invoice. If it is not a valid invoice, then your customer will not be able to take credit, because credit needs to be taken on a valid invoice. On a valid tax invoice only a customer can take credit. If you are if you're if you're any of the in your articles, if you see any of the client having a turnover of more than 50 crores, see that they generate an e-invoice and follow with the rule 48 sub rule 4 which have been introduced. Now moving forward, e-invoice is not applicable to a nil rated or wholly exempt supply. Now anyone can explain the difference between nil rated supply or wholly exempt supply? Anyone can explain the difference between nil rated and wholly exempt? I think everybody is doing articleship and they are aware of these terms basically while filing the return, yeah, filing the filing the returns or helping your principal for GST audit. That you must have come through these terms: nil rated, wholly exempt. What do you mean by this? Can anybody explain?
So we generally thought of nil rated and zero rated supplies means the same.
No, 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 no,
Nil
no.
rated and exempt supplies.
Zero rated is basically supplies which is done to SEZ unit or supplies which are exported outside India. Supplies where goods or services are exported outside India, that is zero rated. Okay, zero rated is different, nil rated is different, exempt is different, and non-taxable is different. So we have to see now four terms. Zero rated, which I've already explained, it is export or supply to SEZ. Nil rated, exempt, and non-taxable. First, I would take non-taxable. Non-taxable means non-taxable supplies means supplies of goods or services which are not taxable under GST. Say alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Alcoholic liquor are outside the purview of GST law. Section 9, which is the basic charging section of GST, itself excludes alcoholic liquor from human consumption. This section also itself excludes diesel, petrol, turbine fuel. So these all are the products which are outside the purview of GST law itself. So those are non-taxable supplies, non-taxable supply of goods or services. This is the second term, non-taxable. Third term, wholly exempt. Wholly exempt. Now, what is wholly exempt? Wholly exempt supplies are goods or services which have been exempted from the GST liability by way of an exemption notification. Can anybody tell what is the basic exemption notification under the CGST Act? A basic exemption notification number, which contains all the exemptions under the GST.
Notification 2/2017.
2/2017 is for goods, correct? And for services?
Somewhat 11.
Somewhat 11 मतलब 11 के आजू बाजू होगा सर, या तो 10 होगा या 12 होगा, ऐसा कुछ. It's 12/2017, the exemption notification. So if any goods, 2/2017, services, 12/2017, if the goods or services are exempt by of exemption notification, then it is an exempted goods or services. Now fourth word, nil rated supply. Now what is the nil rated supply? Nil rated supplies are supplies which are not exempted. एग्जाम नहीं किया गवर्नमेंट ने, पर जब आप टैरिफ देखोगे तो उसमें रेट होगा 0 या nil. So that is a nil rated supply which is not exempted, but in tariff the rate is given as nil. In tariff means in notification 1/2017, which is the rate notification for goods. In notification 11/2017, which is the rate notification for services. If in this notification any of the goods or any of the services had been marked as nil, that means the rate for that goods or that service is nil. That is a nil rated supply. Hope everybody is clear about zero rated, nil rated, exempted, and non-taxable. Basic under the GST. Yes, everybody is clear? Chalo. Okay, so we have completed QRMP, quarterly return monthly payment. We have seen the new rule which restrict you for filing your GST-R1 return. आप खाली क्रेडिट पास नहीं कर सकते GST-R1 फाइल करके, आपको आपके 3B में टैक्स पेमेंट करना पड़ेगा, तो ही आप आगे GST-R1 फाइल कर सकते हो, वो भी हमने देखा. तीसरा हमने देखा ई इनवॉइसिंग, कि अगर आपका टर्नओवर 50 करोड़ से ऊपर है तो आपको ई इनवॉइस लागू हो गया है फ्रॉम 1 अप्रैल 21. पहले 500 करोड़ था, फिर 100 करोड़ और अभी 50 करोड़. In any of the preceding year, then e-invoice needs to be generated. So these three basic topics which we have seen. Now we shall move further. Yeah, these are some of the sectors from to whom the e-invoice is not applicable, and SEZ unit not applicable, for insurance company not applicable, for banking companies not applicable, for goods transport agency e-invoice will not be applicable, for passenger transport service for railways e-invoice would not be applicable. So, and for of course the थिएटर टिकट्स, तो मूवीज देखते हैं उसकी टिकट जो परचेज करते हैं उसमें इनवॉइस अप्लीकेबल नहीं किया है अभी। वो प्रैक्टिकली इज नॉट पॉसिबल फॉर प्रिंटिंग ऑफ रेलवे, जो है हर टिकट के ऊपर इनवॉइस नहीं जनरेट कर पाएगा, तो देयरफॉर दोज आर एक्सक्लूडेड फ्रॉम द परव्यू ऑफ इनवॉइस। Next, a very important rule, Rule 36, Sub Rule 4, which was introduced recently. In the beginning of my presentation, I have given the basic system of return filing GSTR 1, GSTR 2A, and GSTR 3B, which is implemented. Now, GSTR 2A, you can see all the credits which your supplier has uploaded, all the invoices which your supplier has uploaded. Now, if your supplier has uploaded the invoices, it will be reflected in your GSTR 2A. Now, government is telling that before taking credit in your GSTR 3B, check your GSTR 2A. देख लो आपके GSTR 2A में जिससे आपने परचेस किया है उसने इनवॉइस अपलोड किया है कि नहीं किया है, उससे अपना GSTR 1 फाइल किया है कि नहीं किया है, वो आप चेक करो। जितना आपके सप्लायर ने इनवॉइस अपलोड किया है और आपके 2A में दिख रहा है, उसमें से जो आपके एलिजिबल क्रेडिट्स है, say if you have purchased something, your credit may be eligible or not eligible. For ineligible credit, you will of course not take credit. For eligible credit, you can take your credit, the eligible credit which is reflected in your GSTR 2A plus a variation of 5% is allowed. That means say आपके GSTR 2A में क्रेडिट है, आपके 2A में क्रेडिट है 1 लाख रुपया, 1 लाख रुपया is a GST amount which is reflected in GSTR 2A, and in your books of accounts, when you see you have purchased goods and services on which the GST amount is say 1,20,000. Sir, as per my books, I am eligible for credit of 1,20,000. But in GSTR 2A, the amount of credit reflected is only rupees 1 lakh. In that case, the government is telling that you can avail your credit only and only GSTR 2A plus 5%. That means the maximum credit you can take is 1 lakh plus 5%, 1,05,000. In spite of the fact you have purchased goods or services on which the ITC amount is 1,20,000. So maximum credit you can take as 1,05,000 of the eligible credit. Now, can someone tell what all are the ineligible credit under GST? I am constantly telling कि eligible credit का आप 5% ले सकते हो as per Rule 36 4B. तो सर eligible और ineligible credit क्या है, बता सकते हो कौन से क्रेडिट इनएलिजिबल है आज की तारीख में?
सेक्शन 17(5) की?
Yes, Section 17(5) provides a negative list of goods or services for which a credit cannot be taken. That is a restricted credit. Example, can I present an example of Section 17(5) कि सर मेरे को इस चीज का क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा?
Construction of immovable property.
Construction of immovable property for, because सिर्फ आप इनवर्ड कंस्ट्रक्शन देख रहे हो, अगर आप खुद बिल्डर हो, आप कंस्ट्रक्शन कर रहे हो,
then it is available. The ITC is available.
Yes. So for if your outward service is not construction or works contract, then the credit of your construction would not be eligible. Correct. Second.
So sale of membership in a club, health, fitness center.
Yeah, membership in club or fitness centers, of course, not allowed. अभी तो वैसे ही बंद है.
So food beverages.
Yeah. Pardon?
Food beverages.
Food and beverages, correct, not allowed. So these are all the basic credit which are not allowed. Absolutely correct. So in your GSTR 2A, you need to segregate these all credits which are not allowed, segregate credit which are allowed, and which are allowed plus maximum 5% credit you can take subject to your books. अगर books में 50,000 credit है और 2A में 60,000 दिख रहा है, तो आप ये नहीं बोल सकते सर 2A में 60,000 एलिजिबल दिख रहा है, मैं 60,000 ले लूं. नहीं, आपके बुक्स में तो देखना पड़ेगा ना. अगर बुक्स में 60,000, बुक्स में 50,000 है, then the maximum credit to be taken is 50,000, of course. So compare it with your books and take the credit. So this is your rule 36, sub rule 4, which is the credit provisional ITC. You can take maximum of 5% of eligible credit available in GSTR 2A. Okay, this was earlier when it was introduced, it was 20%, then it reduced to 10%, and now from 1st of January 21, it was further brought down to 5% of the eligible credit reflected in GSTR 2A. Of course, this rule would affect the working capital of any SSC. He has purchased the goods and services, he has made payment to his vendor, but if vendor has not filed the return and our credit is not eligible because of him not filing of return, we need to pay the taxes by cash and not take the credit of taxes already paid. This may create a working capital issue for any of the SSCs. Yeah, I think you have raised your hand. Yes.
Sir, I want just to know your opinion on the validity of this rule, whether this rule is valid or not.
This we shall discuss when we discuss the Finance Act amendment in 2021. That will come now. Then we will discuss. Okay. Now rule 36. Before I have told you the basic, then we can go move a little faster in this aspect. A new form, GSTR 2B, is recently introduced. This is also a very interesting form to know. See, in GSTR 2A, which we were discussing, GSTR 2A is basically a dynamic statement. Dynamic in the sense, say your supplier has filed a return for the month of April within time period. By 11th of May, he has filed a return, and you open your GSTR 2A on say 19th of May to file your GSTR 3B for the due date is 20th of May, and you see the credit of April and file the return. And one of your vendor वो late था, तो उसने तो GSTR 1 ही फाइल किया say on 25th of May. अप्रैल का रिटर्न उसने कब फाइल किया? GSTR 1 25th of May. Then in that case also your April GSTR 2A will be updated after you file your return. So that means your GSTR 2A will keep on updating as and when your suppliers file the return. That is a dynamic statement. Today you take the total of GSTR 2A, it may be different, and after 2 days you may take it will show a different figure. So these are the practical issues which the SSC was facing. Sir, GSTR 2 is a dynamic statement. It keeps on changing. As and when my supplier files the return, as and when my supplier amend the invoices for that particular month, it keeps on changing. Also, say if I forget to upload the invoice in month of April, बाद में मुझे जून में याद आता है, अरे वो अप्रैल का इनवॉइस तो मेरा इस वेंडर का रह गया था और मैंने जून 2021 का रिटर्न में अप्रैल 21 का इनवॉइस अपलोड किया, देन ऑल्सो माय रिसिपिएंट अप्रैल GSTR 2A विल बी अपडेटेड. उसके अप्रैल के 2A में दिखता है कि ये इनवॉइस है जो रह गया था. तो इसलिए गवर्नमेंट ने टू ओवरकम दिस डायनामिक स्टेटमेंट इशू दे हैव इंट्रोड्यूस्ड अ न्यू फॉर्म GSTR 2B. They have named this 2B form as auto-populated input tax credit statement. I would repeat. They have named it as auto-populated input tax credit statement. That means in this statement, they would show you your input tax credit which you are eligible based on your supplier's GSTR 1, provided they have filed a GSTR 1 within the due date. That means if your supplier has filed the return by 11th of the May, filed the return of April 21 by 11th May 21, then it would be updated in your April 21. If your supplier has uploaded the invoices in the invoice furnishing facility, what was the due date of invoice furnishing facility which I have discussed earlier in the presentation? What was the due date? Can anybody tell? What was the due date of IFF?
Between the first day of the succeeding month till the 13th day of the succeeding month.
13 was due date. That means if for the month of April, by 13th of May, your invoice supplier has filed the IFF, then only your credit will be reflected in GSTR 2B. अगर उसने टाइम पे रिटर्न फाइल किया है तो ही वो आपके GSTR 2B में रिफ्लेक्ट करेगा. Say for the month of April, the due date for GSTR 1 is 11th and he has filed on 14th or on the 16th, then it will not be reflected in your April month GSTR 2B. It will be reflected in your May month GSTR 2B. मतलब May month का आप GSTR 2B देखोगे उसमें दिखेगा कि आपके सप्लायर ने अप्रैल का इनवॉइसेस जो है वो लेट अपलोड किया है. That means for the invoices which have been uploaded up to the due date of the current tax period, current month, that will be auto reflected in your GSTR 2B. So it is a static document. It will freeze on 13th of every month. Say on 14th, you can take the printout of GSTR 2B. It will not change. And this statement will show you what all are the credits which you are eligible, which all are the credits you are not eligible. They will show you the details. Regarding credits which are eligible, it's okay. Regarding not eligible, they will take into consideration section 16.4. What is 16.4? Section 16.4, can anybody tell? 16.4 section क्या है? Section 16 subsection 4 of the CGST Act. Can anybody?
Time limit.
Correct. Time limit for availing credit. The time limit for availing credit on invoices and debit notes is, what is the time limit? Can anybody tell?
Annual return या फिर September का मतलब 20th October, whichever is
by
earlier.
By the end of the succeeding financial year GSTR 3B of the month of September or annual return whichever is earlier, तब तक आप क्रेडिट ले सकते हो. तो मतलब अगर आपके किसी सप्लायर ने मार्च 21 का इनवॉइस, मार्च 21 का इनवॉइस बेसिकली आप क्रेडिट ले सकते हो 30 सितंबर तक. 30 सितंबर मतलब 20 अक्टूबर तक समझ लो. सितंबर रिटर्न में लोगे 20 अक्टूबर तक फाइल करोगे अपना 3B. तो किसी सप्लायर ने अगर अपना मार्च 21 का रिटर्न फाइल किया दिसंबर 21 में, तो आपके 2B में वो इनएलिजिबल बताएगा. आपके 2B में वो इनएलिजिबल बताएगा बिकॉज द ड्यू डेट या टाइम लिमिट ऑफ सेक्शन 16.4 हैज बीन लेफ्ट. सेकेंड, वो इनएलिजिबल एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीज बताएगा. चलो एक मेरा क्वेश्चन, इफ योर सप्लायर हैज, if say you are registered SSC in गुजरात, आप जो है बॉम्बे गए, आप बॉम्बे ताज में रुके, तो बॉम्बे ताज में आपने अपना GST नंबर दिया कि सर मैं तो रजिस्टर्ड हूँ गुजरात में, ये मेरा GST नंबर है, प्लीज गिव मी माई GST इनवॉइस. तो व्हाट ही विल चार्ज? बॉम्बे ताज विल चार्ज यू CGST, SGST और IGST. माई क्वेश्चन, क्या चार्ज करेगा वो आपसे? बॉम्बे ताज में आके रुकना पड़ेगा उसके लिए? बताओ
सर एक बार क्वेश्चन रिपीट.
आप गुजरात में रजिस्टर्ड हो, आप गुजरात में GST में रजिस्टर्ड हो, आप किसी काम से बॉम्बे गए और बॉम्बे ताज में आपने स्टे किया और वहां आपने आपका GST नंबर दिया कि मेरा GST नंबर है, प्लीज गिव मी अ B2B इनवॉइस, आई वांट टू टेक क्रेडिट. ओके, तो योर बॉम्बे ताज, तो ताज होटल है बॉम्बे में, वो आपसे क्या चार्ज करेगा? CGST SGST चार्ज करेगा कि IGST चार्ज करेगा?
CGST SGST. प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई, उसका प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई वो बॉम्बे हो जाएगा.
हाँ, प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई वुड बी महाराष्ट्र. ही विल चार्ज यू CGST एंड महाराष्ट्र स्टेट एक्ट SGST. तो विल यू बी एलिजिबल फॉर क्रेडिट इन गुजरात? क्या आप गुजरात में क्रेडिट ले पाओगे?
पर सर वो स्टे का खर्चा है या खाने पीने का खर्चा है वो देखना पड़ेगा.
नहीं, स्टे का खर्चा एलिजिबल है. see that credit is eligible. Accommodation service credit is eligible. Food का बिल नहीं है, stay का बिल है. तो
हाँ तो
क्या
सर
आप
वो
गुजरात से
एलिजिबल
क्रेडिट ले सकते हो?
है. यस यस.
Yes, eligible. Yes, strictly as per GST law, but no as per government. A litigated point. So government is telling if your place of supply is other than the place where you are registered, then no credit would be eligible. So your GST 2B form will tell you, कि, sir, this hotel stay, the place of supply is Maharashtra where the hotel is situated. Sorry, you are not eligible for credit in Gujarat. So they will tell you are not eligible for credit in Gujarat. They will tell you this is your ineligible credit. So your 2B form will show you the eligible credit, and ineligible credit, they will take care of section 16.4. They will take care of your place of supply. Automatic system. So based on that, your GSTR 2B form will be auto-generated on 14th of your succeeding month. April का 14th of May को GSTR 2B form print out करके देख सकते हो कि क्या मेरे क्रेडिट गवर्नमेंट के हिसाब से ऑटो पॉपुलेटेड है, क्या एलिजिबल है और क्या नॉट एलिजिबल है. Auto drafted, as I told, GSTR 2B is an auto drafted input test credit statement as per Rule 60, sub Rule 7 of the CGST rule. It has been introduced from the month of August 2020. July it was also there. From August they have given to all the registered taxpayers. Of course, as I told, it is a static statement available each month after the due date of filing your GSTR 1 or IFS. It is available each month. Next, it shows the ITC available and not available. I've already discussed. It will show your invoice wise detail. हाँ, document level invoice wise होगा. ये invoice आपका eligible है, ये नहीं eligible है, और उसका एक summary भी देगा वो आपको. Both will be given. So this was your GSTR 2B statement which has been recently introduced. Now government is going to introduce a dynamic QR code on B2C invoices. Dynamic QR code on B2C invoices. This was first thought to be implemented from 1st of April 2021, from this month starting, but now is then postponed to 1st of June 2021. After this dynamic QR code will be applicable for B2C invoices. It has been initially will be implemented only for those SSC whose turnover is above 500 crores. Above 500 crores, how many SSCs are there in India? Approx कितने SSC होंगे 500 करोड़ के ऊपर टर्नओवर वाले इंडिया में? फास्ट भी टाइम कम है. Approx 50,000 SSCs would be above 500 crores. तो उनके लिए ये applicable होने वाला है from 1st of June 2020. It will be applicable only to B2C invoices. It is this dynamic QR code is just to facilitate digital payment. जो आप लोग QR code scan करके payment करते हो, उसको facilitate करने के लिए ये B2C invoices पे a dynamic QR code they will be implemented from 1st of June. I am skipping this call. I will share the presentation. For whom is applicable, not applicable, the student can read. I will share this presentation to the organizer. They can forward it to the student. Okay. Next important thing which has been implemented from 1st of April 21, HSN code they've implemented. No, HSN code was implemented earlier only, but now they have increased the digits to be mentioned in the invoices. Now, what is HSN code? Everyone knows basic what is HSN code. It is harmonized system nomenclature developed by the World Customs Organization, giving the HSN to each and every goods. And for services, it is Service Accounting Code, SAC code. So these are the coding system which has been done under the Customs Tariff Act, under the Central Excise. It was under the earlier regime, under the Central Excise Tariff Act also. That Customs Tariff Act HSN has been adopted in GST also. So basically, it is an 8-digit code which is applicable to all goods. HSN code. Earlier, at the time of introduction of GST in the month of July 2017, the HSN code was not applicable to SSCs below 1.5 crores turnover. Only two digit was applicable for 1.5 to 5 crores turnover, and for more than 5 crore turnover, 4-digit HSN code was applicable. Now, from 1st of April 21, they have told if the SSC has turnover up to 5 crores, 4-digit, and more than 5 crores, 6-digit HSN needs to be adopted. So this HSN needs to be selected very meticulously, very perfectly, because your rate of tax would depend upon this HSN. अगर आपने HSN गलत select कर लिया, rate गलत select कर लिया, then the repercussion is huge. You need to select very firmly and nicely कि सर ये HSN है, आप 2 बार इसको confirm करके ही अपने employer से discuss करके ही client को दीजिए. So this is the HSN and this is the rate of tax which is applicable to you. For export, for B2C invoices, 6-digit HSN code has been made optional. उनके लिए optional है, पर किन के लिए? जिनका टर्नओवर 5 करोड़ से नीचे है. और किसी का 5 करोड़ से नीचे है और B2C इनवॉइसेस पे उनको HSN कोड लगाना जरूरी नहीं है. इट इज देन मेड ऑप्शनल. ओके, कुछ केमिकल्स गवर्नमेंट नोटिफाई किया है. वो केमिकल्स में कंपल्सरीली 8-digit कोड इज कंपल्सरी. 8 digit मतलब पूरा टैरिफ आइटम का जो कोड है वो कुछ केमिकल्स में वो डालना कंपल्सरी है. See, these are the HSN which have been implemented from 1st of April 21. From 4-digit to 6-digit they have done. Again, and another important change from this financial year, from this year only, the validity of e-way bill. Normally 1 जुलाई जब e-way bill implement हुआ from April 2018, if your distance to be traveled, everyone needs to know ना what is e-way bill. e-way bill सबको पता है ना कि for transporting any goods from one place to another, and e-way bill needs to be generated for turnover for if the value of consignment is more than 50,000 rupees. तो पहले e-way bill की वैलिडिटी एक दिन में उसकी वैलिडिटी थी 100 किलोमीटर. मतलब अगर आपको फिर 200 किलोमीटर जाना है तो उसकी वैलिडिटी को 2 दिन देते थे. अब उन्होंने क्या कर दिया, एक दिन में आपको 200 किलोमीटर जाना पड़ेगा कम से कम. That means the validity of e-way bill has been reduced from 100 kilometer to 200 kilometers per day. Now per day minimum 200 kilometers needs to be traveled. ठीक है, तो validity e-way bill from 1st of January 21 has been reduced in one day. 200 kilometers needs to be traveled by the by the truck or the tempo against the 100 kilometers which was earlier notified. And से अगर ऐसा कुछ गुड्स है तो आप पावर लेके कमिश्नर से ज्यादा भी कर सकते हो. कमिश्नर उसको नोटिफाई करेगा कि हाँ ये ज्यादा है. अगर आप ट्रांसपोर्ट नहीं कर पा रहे हो टाइम पे, तो किसी भी कारण कि व्हीकल खराब हो गया है, पंचर हो गया, उसको ठीक करने में टाइम लग रहा है, तो वैलिडिटी ऑफ e-way bill कैन बी एक्सटेंडेड विद इन 8 hours फ्रॉम इट एक्सपायरी. अगर वैलिडिटी खत्म हो गया है और 8 घंटे पहले आप उसका वैलिडिटी इंक्रीज कर सकते हो. So this all the validity of e-way bill which has been reduced from 100 kilometer to 200 kilometers. Amendment in budget 2021. Budget 2021 सबको पता है 1 फरवरी को आया था. इसमें जीएसटी के कुछ अमेंडमेंट्स आए थे, वो हम अभी डिस्कस करेंगे. This finance bill which was presented on 1st of Feb 21, has it become act till now? 1 फरवरी 2021 को जो हमारे फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर ने बिल प्रेजेंट किया था, क्या वो एक्ट बन चुका है अभी तक? क्या उसको प्रेसिडेंट एसेंट मिल चुका है? Yes or no? You can write in the chat box. Jay is telling no. Yes, the finance bill has become a Finance Act 2021 on 28th of March 2021. So the president has given the assent and 28 मार्च 2021 को वो फाइनेंस एक्ट 2021 बन गया. So all the provisions of Finance Act 2021, has it come into force? The GST provision एक्ट तो बन गया, क्या वो सारे प्रोविजंस फोर्स में आए हैं अभी तक? नहीं, that has not been become effective because as per the Finance Act 21, it will be effective from the date to be notified by way of a notification. So the government will issue a notification on that day. This act, the provision relating to GST Act in this Finance Act 21 will be implemented. It will be implemented once all the states also make suitable amendment in their respective state goods and services tax act. So this may take time to 6 to 8 months. So by probably the amendment which we will discuss now, which has been brought to the Finance Act 21, will probably be implemented say in the month of December 21 or January 22, because all the state also need to consequently amend their respective state GST Act also. Na? In GST, there is a central GST Act and all the states have their Act. Gujarat SGST Act, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, everybody has their respective SGST Act. Even though all the provisions are more or less same, but they have their respective Act. That's why we charge CGST and SGST separately under the Indian GST law. So this all amendments will be effective from the date to be notified. Now I have selected some of the amendments which are relevant to you all. I have not selected all the amendments. First amendment which is effective, which my friend was asking about the validity of Rule 36 sub Rule 4. Now this amendment would give Rule 36 for a legal validity. This amendment is amendment in section 16 subsection 2. Section 16 subsection 2 talks about the eligibility of input tax credit. When you are eligible, what are the conditions which you will satisfy to become eligible for input tax credit? Can anybody tell what all are the conditions which are presently mentioned in section 16 subsection 2? First,
There are 4 conditions. First,
yes,
the supplier should issue a bill, and the bill should be received by
supplier
the
must
buyer.
issue a tax invoice. Correct.
Tax invoice.
Must be issued. Correct.
Goods
Second,
must be delivered, or
goods must be
services must
received
be
by
rendered.
the goods must be received or service must be rendered. Second condition. Third condition.
He has paid tax to the government on the basis
Who has
of
tax paid to the government?
supplier.
The supplier who has issued the invoice has paid tax to the government. And fourth condition,
Not known.
not known. Anybody else? A registered taxpayer of course must file his return under section 39. जो आपका 3B रिटर्न है वो आप फाइल करोगे रेगुलरली तो ही आपको उसका क्रेडिट मिलेगा. आपसे बुक्स में क्रेडिट लेके छोड़ दोगे, रिटर्न फाइल नहीं करोगे तो आपको क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा. तो अपार्ट फ्रॉम दिस 4 conditions, this new subclause AA has been inserted from Finance Act 2021, which says your input tax credit on invoice or debit note may be availed only when the details of such invoice or debit note has been furnished by the supplier in the statement of outward supply. मतलब supplier ने अपना GST1 फाइल कर दिया हो and such details have been communicated to the recipient of such invoice or debit note. मतलब आपके supplier ने GST1 फाइल कर दिया हो और आपके GSTR 2A या अभी auto populated 2B उसमें reflect हो रहा हो, then only your credit will be eligible as per this newly inserted subclause in section 16(2). Okay, now we'll move to next important amendment. Amendment in section 35 and section 44. Section 35, not retrospective effect, it will be effective from the date which will be notified by the central government. It is not a retrospective amendment. Amendment in section 35 or 44, 35 and 44. Now दिस अमेंडमेंट, ये अमेंडमेंट ने अपने चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट प्रोफेशन को झटका दिया है. क्यों झटका दिया है? बिकॉज जो हम लोग ऑडिट्स करते थे, जीएसटी ऑडिट, GST reconciliation 9C, that has been removed by this amendment in section 35 and section 44. They have told now there is no need of certification of your reconciliation statement from a cost accountant or chartered accountant. There is no need of certification from cost accountant or chartered accountant. The taxpayer shall himself file the annual return and shall self-certify the reconciliation of the amount reflected in the GST returns with the audited financial statement. तो जो आपका ऑडिट रिपोर्ट इनकम टैक्स का है, उससे जो जीएसटी रिटर्न का रिकंसिलिएशन करना है, that the taxpayer would do it by himself and there is no need of audit by a chartered accountant or a cost accountant. So for this amendment has been brought in section 35 or section 44. Section 35 subsection 5 has been omitted. उसको डिलीट ही कर दिया है. क्यों डिलीट किया? टू रिमूव द मैंडेटरी रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ गेटिंग द एनुअल अकाउंट ऑडिटेड एंड द रिकंसिलिएशन स्टेटमेंट सबमिटेड बाय अ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट और कॉस्ट अकाउंटेंट. एंड न्यू सबसेक्शन 44 हैज बीन इंसर्टेड, जो मैं आपको बता रहा हूं कि अ रिकंसिलिएशन स्टेटमेंट शैल बी ऑन सेल्फ सर्टिफिकेशन बेसिस बाय द टैक्सपेयर. Now government has power, the commission has power to notify the class of taxpayer for whom this annual return along with the self-certified reconciliation statement will be applicable, and any extension or any exemption is to be given, it shall be given by the commissioner as per the newly inserted section 44 of the CGST Act. Next amendment in section 50 of the CGST Act. This is also a very important amendment. This amendment is retrospectively. It will be retrospectively effected from 1st of July 2017. So जब से GST implement हुआ. Section 50 क्या है? Can anybody tell? What is there in section 50?
Interest on delay payment of tax.
Yes, interest on delayed payment of tax. Initially, in section 50, it was written if any SSC has not furnished the return by the due date, if he is furnished a return after due date, then interest shall be payable at the rate as may be notified by the central government, the notification in this behalf. Now, this was creating a problem कि sir, if I have my credits, तो मैं टैक्स मेरे क्रेडिट से ही पे कर रहा हूँ. क्रेडिट क्या है? क्रेडिट भी तो एक टैक्स है जो मैंने गवर्नमेंट को पे किया है. डायरेक्टली पे नहीं किया, मैंने मेरे सप्लायर को दिया, सप्लायर ने गवर्नमेंट को पे किया. तो जो टैक्स मैं ऑलरेडी मेरे सप्लायर को दे चुका हूँ, वो क्रेडिट पे मुझे क्यों इंटरेस्ट ले रहे हो? तो गवर्नमेंट ने बोला ओके, नो नीड टू पे इंटरेस्ट ऑन द पोर्शन ऑफ योर amount paid through your electronic credit ledger. That means if you are filing your return belatedly, you are filing your return late after due date of filing of return, then you need to pay interest only on your payment made through electronic cash ledger and not payment made through electronic credit ledger. But this benefit would be given only and only if you show your liability in your return and you pay the tax. गवर्नमेंट अगर आप टैक्स पे नहीं कर रहे थे, आप रिटर्न फाइल नहीं कर रहे थे, गवर्नमेंट आपके पास आई, गवर्नमेंट ने ऑडिट किया, आपके यहाँ सर्च किया, इंक्वायरी किया और पता चला ये टैक्स तो आपका पे करना रह गया है, और गवर्नमेंट को पता चला टैक्स तो पे करना आपका रह गया है, फिर आप दौड़ के जाओगे सर ये टैक्स तो पे करना रह गया पर ये क्रेडिट भी है मेरे पास, ये क्रेडिट तो मुझे दो, ये टैक्स आप बोल रहे हो इसमें टैक्स लगेगा तो मैंने जो परचेज उसके मुझे क्रेडिट दो. उस केस में आपको ग्रॉस पे ही टैक्स इंटरेस्ट लगेगा, नेट लायबिलिटी पे नहीं. मतलब क्रेडिट लेस करने के बाद के अमाउंट पे इंटरेस्ट नहीं, ग्रॉस लायबिलिटी पे इंटरेस्ट लगेगा. मतलब ये अमेंडमेंट जो नेट में इंटरेस्ट पे करने को बोल रहा है, नेट लायबिलिटी पे इंटरेस्ट पे करने को बोल रहा है, दिस विल नॉट बी इफेक्टिव वंस द गवर्नमेंट इशू अ नोटिस अंडर सेक्शन 73 एंड 74. 73 एंड 74 सेक्शन नोटिस का है, तो गवर्नमेंट इशू करती है इफ यू हैव not paid, short paid any tax, or you have availed wrong credit, you have availed ineligible credit, you have received a wrong refund from the government. In that case, for recovery of those credit for taxes or that refund, a notice under section 73 and 74 is issued. Once notice is issued and after that you pay your taxes, then sorry, on total liability, including payment made through credit ledger, interest will be payable. So the interest into paid on net cash pay liability provided that the person has not issued any show cause notice under section 73 and section 74. See, the judgment of Tamil Nadu High Court, Gujarat High Court now will be of no relevance because amendment has been brought retrospectively in the GST Act. So आपको कोई tension नहीं. You can quote the press release which have been issued by the government last year, and you can quote that this amendment has already been done. The interest will surely on your net liability and not on a gross liability in spite of judgment of any court. Now, this one interesting point is there. Interest shall be payable on portion of tax which is paid by debiting electronic cash ledger if the tax payable has been declared in the return for the said period, furnished after due date in accordance with the provision of section 39. मतलब उस रिटर्न में आपने लायबिलिटी दिखाया है और लेट दिखाया है तो ही आपको नेट लायबिलिटी पे टैक्स इंटरेस्ट लगेगा. अगर आपने लायबिलिटी दिखाई नहीं है रिटर्न में, आप डायरेक्टली पेमेंट कर रहे हो, DRC 03 जो पेमेंट का चलान दूसरा मेथड है, तो उस केस में फिर आपको ग्रॉस पे इंटरेस्ट लगेगा, नेट पे नहीं. नेक्स्ट अमेंडमेंट इन सेक्शन 75. सेक्शन 75 क्या बोलता है कि अगर कोई सेल्फ एसेस टैक्स है और आपने सेल्फ एसेस टैक्स आपने डिक्लेयर कर दिया है गवर्नमेंट को कि सर ये टैक्स मेरा पे करना बाकी है, आपने GST रिटर्न्स में दिखा दिया है, और आपने गवर्नमेंट को टैक्स पे नहीं किया, या अगर आप लेट पेमेंट करो तो आपने इंटरेस्ट पे नहीं किया, तो गवर्नमेंट क्या बोलेगी, फिर आपको गवर्नमेंट नोटिस नहीं देगी, सेक्शन 73 और सेक्शन 74 का नोटिस नहीं देगी, डायरेक्टली रिकवरी करेगी. रिकवरी कैसे करेगी? एज पर सेक्शन 79. रिकवरी मतलब रिकवरी कैसे होता है? आपका बैंक अकाउंट अटैच करेगी, आपके डेटर्स है उससे डायरेक्ट अमाउंट जो है वो रिकवर करने की कोशिश करेगी आपके एसेट्स को अटैच करके. तो इफ यू हैव डिक्लेयर्ड योर लायबिलिटी इन योर रिटर्न, इफ यू आर फाइल योर GSTR 1, आपने अपना GSTR 1 फाइल कर दिया, तो दैट इज योर सेल्फ असेस टैक्स. भले आपने आपका GSTR 3 भी फाइल नहीं किया हो, then the government will directly invoke the recovery proceeding under section 79 and will not issue you notice under section 73 or 74. Directly they will issue an order in DRC 07, direct order, pay this amount, and directly recovery proceedings will be initiated against you. This is the recent amendment in section 75. Another important amendment in section 129. Section 129 क्या था? Section 129 था, क्या है अभी, कि एनी गुड्स दैट हैज बीन दैट यू आर ट्रांसपोर्टिंग, कोई भी गुड्स आप ट्रांसपोर्ट कर रहे हो विदाउट अ वैलिड डॉक्यूमेंट. वैलिड डॉक्यूमेंट इज अ टैक्स इनवॉइस और अ ई-वे बिल. ई-वे बिल और टैक्स इनवॉइस के बिना अगर आप गुड्स लेके जा रहे हो, या ई-वे बिल में कुछ आपने बहुत बड़ा मिस्टेक किया है, in those cases section 129 will be invoked. सेक्शन 129 पहले क्या था और अब क्या है? सेक्शन 129 में पहले था कि अगर आप गुड्स ट्रांसपोर्ट कर रहे हो विदाउट अ वैलिड डॉक्यूमेंट, उस केस में अगर गुड्स ऑफिसर ने इंटरसेप्ट कर लिया आपका व्हीकल अंडर सेक्शन 68, द गवर्नमेंट हैज पावर, द ऑफिसर हैज पावर टू वेरीफाई द व्हीकल व्हिच हैज बीन ट्रांसपोर्टेड. So if the government intercepts your vehicle, search your vehicle, and if any discrepancy is found when they match with your bill or e-way bill, or when the e-way bill is not there, then the SAC was liable to pay the tax and 100% penalty of the tax amount. वो आपको नॉर्मली पे करना है इन केस ऑफ टैक्सेबल गुड्स. अगर गुड्स टैक्सेबल है तो जितना उस पर टैक्स है और जितना टैक्स उतनी ही पेनल्टी आपको पे करनी थी. अब गवर्नमेंट ने क्या किया? White amendment in section 129 of the CGST Act 2017, you need to pay 200% penalty, no tax. Tax पे नहीं करना है. 200% penalty of the tax amount. से आपका अगर आपका 1 लाख का गुड्स आप ट्रांसपोर्ट कर रहे थे, आपने ई-वे बिल नहीं बनाया, 18,000 में टैक्स अमाउंट था। अब तक जब तक ये अमेंडमेंट नोटिफाई नहीं होता है, अब तक हम 18,000 टैक्स और 18,000 पेनल्टी और 36,000 पे करते थे गवर्नमेंट को, और अपना गुड्स जो है वो वापस ले लेते थे, उसको कॉन्फिस्केट नहीं होने थे। पर अब when the amendment would be effective, from that day you need to pay 36,000 as penalty, no tax to be paid under section 129. So this has been brought in case of taxable goods, pay 200% of the tax payable on such goods as penalty where applicable. In case of exempted goods, it is 2% of the value of goods or 25,000 rupees, whichever is less. जो कम है 25,000 rupees or 2% of the value of goods when the owner come forward. अगर goods transport हो रहा है और ओनर सामने है कि हाँ सर ये मेरा गुड्स है, मुझसे गलती हो गई है, तो 200% of tax in case of taxable goods. In case of exempted goods, 2% of the value of goods or 25,000 rupees, whichever is less. अगर ओनर सामने नहीं आ रहा है, if the owner is not coming, then in that case it will be 50% of the value of goods. In case of taxable goods, it will be 50% of the value of goods. मतलब 1 लाख का गुड्स है तो 50,000 rupees would be the penalty. In case of taxable goods, in case of exempted goods, it is 5% of the value of goods or 25,000 rupees, whichever is less. If you not pay this amount, then your goods will be liable for confiscation and detention. Section 130 would be implemented. Clear? So this is the amendment in section 129. Next very important amendment in section 16 of the IGST Act. This is the last amendment which I would take. I will not cover further because already 735. This is a very important amendment, section 16 of the IGST Act, not the CGST Act. CGST Act amendment I have covered, which all were relevant for you all. Now section 16 of the IGST Act, it says normally zero rated supplies, export would be with payment. एक्सपोर्ट आप जो है विद पेमेंट कर सकते हो, गुड्स में टैक्स पेमेंट करके आप एक्सपोर्ट कर सकते हो। जो आप गुड्स में टैक्स पेमेंट करोगे वो ऑटोमेटिक द कस्टम डिपार्टमेंट विल प्रोसेस द रिफंड ऑफ द टैक्स पेड ऑन एक्सपोर्ट टू योर अकाउंट। दैट्स व्हाई जीरो रेटेड ना। जीरो रेटेड का मतलब क्या हुआ? जीरो रेटेड गुड्स और सर्विसेज मींस the taxes which you have paid on export of goods will be refunded by the custom department automatically. When you export, of course you file a bill of export, shipping bill आप file करते हो ना पोर्ट में जब एक्सपोर्ट करते हो तो that shipping bill या bill of export will be treated as refund application for the purpose of IGST, and automatic refund will be given in your account if you export it with payment of tax. मतलब 1 लाख का गुड्स है, आप 1 लाख का गुड्स विद पेमेंट एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हो, आपने 18,000 पे किया तो 18,000 गवर्नमेंट आपको वापस दे देगी, रिफंड दे देगी। सेकेंड ऑप्शन इज एक्सपोर्ट विदाउट पेमेंट अंडर एलयूटी। एक लेटर ऑफ अंडरटेकिंग आप गवर्नमेंट को दो, आपने अगर एलयूटी गवर्नमेंट को दिया है तो आप एक्सपोर्ट विदाउट पेमेंट भी कर सकते हो। तो दैट वाज सेक्शन 16 कि एक्सपोर्ट कैन बी डन विद पेमेंट और विदाउट पेमेंट। इन केस विदाउट पेमेंट आप पेमेंट नहीं करोगे तो ऑफकोर्स आपके परचेज का क्रेडिट वो आपको आपके पास एक्यूमुलेट होते रहेगा। तो दैट एक्यूमुलेटेड क्रेडिट ड्यू टू एक्सपोर्ट विदाउट पेमेंट ऑफ ड्यूटी कैन बी क्लेम्ड एज रिफंड, वो आपको रिफंड मिल जाता है। तो एक्सपोर्ट में 2 तरीका है रिफंड लेने का, या तो आप ड्यूटी पे करके एक्सपोर्ट करो, एक्सपोर्ट विद पेमेंट। दूसरा तरीका एक्सपोर्ट विदाउट पेमेंट, यू कैन टेक द रिफंड ऑफ योर एक्यूमुलेटेड क्रेडिट। नाउ गवर्नमेंट हैज अमेंडेड द section 16, which of course will come into effect on the date to be notified by the government, कि export needs to be compulsorily made without payment। आपको एक्सपोर्ट कैसे करना है? विदाउट पेमेंट ही करना है, एक्सेप्ट फॉर सर्टेन कैटेगरी ऑफ पर्सन टू बी नोटिफाइड बाय द गवर्नमेंट। लोग क्या करते थे, कुछ लोग बोगस एक्सपोर्ट करते थे, रिफंड लेके थे, ऑटोमेटिक रिफंड है, आपने शिपिंग पर फिल फाइल किया, 10 दिन के अंदर आपका रिफंड आ जाता। तो लोग इसमें बहुत चोरी करते थे। दे वुड एक्सपोर्ट, टेक रिफंड, बोगस एक्सपोर्ट, overvalue the export consignments and take refund and run away. So to capture those exporters, that fraudulent exporters, yeah, government has sometimes fly by night operators। fly by night मतलब एक फॉर्म ओपन किया, 5-6 महीना 3 महीना एक्सपोर्ट किया, टेक द रिफंड एंड देन रन अवे. So to catch hold of those fraudulent exporters, government has told कि now we will stop the option of exporting with payment of tax to certified class of person only can export with payment. This important amendment has been brought in section 16. As per my understanding, of course, those who are regular exporter exporting above a limit, those who are star export house, 1 star, 2 star export house, for that the government may by notification allow them to export with payment, and for others the government will tell now you export without payment and take the refund of accumulated ITC manually through your jurisdictional jurisdictional GST office. Manually in the sense you need to upload the documents as per section 54 or circular 125 of the CGST circulars. You need to follow that procedure and claim the refund. This is the amendment in section 16 related to zero rated supply, and relating to SEZ there is also an amendment. For SEZ, earlier supplies to SEZ unit was treated as zero rated, but now supply to SEZ unit for authorized operation only will be treated as zero rated. Now, what is authorized operation? The committee in the SEZ unit has come out with a list of activity which an SEZ unit will do. For that list of activity, if you are providing any goods or providing any service for that authorized operation only, then only it will be treated as a zero rated supplies. Otherwise, it will be treated as normal supply only and not a zero rated supply. So this was the amendment in important amendment in section 16. Last, I would cover rule 86B because I have told that this I will cover. This is also a new restriction which has been brought into effect from 1st of January 21. This restriction is also on a same line to catch the fraudulent taxpayers, to catch the fly-by-night operators. Now, this rule 86B tells, this rule 86B puts a restriction to discharge the liability on outward tax in excess of 99% of such liability through electronic credit ledger. Now, this rule says that if your liability to pay tax is say 50,000 rupees, then you can use 99% of your electronic credit ledger. So 55,000 का 99% मतलब 49,500 आप क्रेडिट से पे कर सकते हो. 500 रुपीज आपको कंपल्सरी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कैश लेजर से ही पेमेंट करना है. तो दिस इज गिविंग अ रिस्ट्रिक्शन कि the taxpayers pay the tax by electronic cash also. Cash ledger also. This is applicable only to taxpayers whose monthly turnover is above 50 lakh rupees, excluding exempted and zero rated supplies. Exempted और zero rated supplies हटा के और आपका aggregate turnover 50 lakh से ऊपर है, उसी के लिए rule 86 भी applicable है. ये rule 86 भी applicable उसके लिए नहीं है जो एसएससी इनकम टैक्स 1 लाख से ज्यादा पे किया हो पिछले 2 सालों में. जो एसएससी अगर एचयूएफ है तो उसका करता, कंपनी है तो मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर, पार्टनरशिप फॉर्म है तो 2 पार्टनर्स या होल टाइम डायरेक्टर्स in the preceding 2 years has paid income tax of more than 1 lakh rupees, then this decision will not apply. If the taxpayer has claimed refund of more than 1 lakh in the preceding financial year from the government, then this decision would not apply. This decision would not apply for the taxpayer who have already discharged his liability through electronic cash ledger. 1% ज्यादा लाइबिलिटी ऑलरेडी हमने अगर कैश लेजर से पे कर दिया उस साल में, तो फिर आपको ये रिस्ट्रिक्शन नहीं लगेगा. लास्टली, दिस रिस्ट्रिक्शन वुड नॉट अप्लाई टू गवर्नमेंट डिपार्टमेंट, अ पब्लिक सेक्टर अंडरटेकिंग, अ लोकल अथॉरिटी और अ स्टैट्यूटरी बॉडी. उसको रिस्ट्रिक्शन अप्लीकेबल नहीं होगा. आई एम नॉट कवरिंग दिस आधार बेस्ड authentication which has been brought into effect last financial year 2021. From 1st of April this was brought into effect for any new registered SSC they need to undergo an Aadhaar based authentication. If Aadhaar based authentication has not been undergone by them, then compulsorily at the time of registration, the government will physically verify the premises. So this section has been inserted, rule has been inserted. I will share the presentation. The participants may go through this in this regard. Okay, now I've stopped the sharing. 10 minutes, we can take questions of session if the time permits.
Okay, so sir, wonderful session. Now I will ask participant if they have question, they can unmute themselves and ask.
So one query from myself.
Yes,
Yes.
Jay.
One of the person had registered on the GST on the GST portal, got his GST number. Now we had made tax invoice of different HSN code. How to upload
Okay.
that type of HSN code on the portal?
Tax invoice on different SSN code that will go in the SSNY summary in GSTR1. For invoice,
Portal is not accepting that because you have not changed, and the date is means the date of issue of GST invoice is 1st April, suppose, and the change of HSN code is on 7th April on GST portal.
they will accept. This will not be a reason, because only main 5 HSN you need to put in the GST portal, not all the HSN. If I am supplying 50 products, all 50 HSN, there is no requirement to upload in my GST certificate. Only top 5 commodities only we need to upload. So this will not happen. There may be some other reason due to which you are not able to upload your HSN.
So another query: one of the taxpayer is having the restaurant business. He has opted for the scheme of taking supplying the goods at 18% by taking ITC. Means in restaurant service there are two trades: 5% and 18%. 5% without ITC and 80% with ITC. If the same person wants to do another business, means supplying of clothes and on Amazon, can he use the ITC of clothes business into this restaurant business for paying tax liability of restaurant business?
Say, firstly, there has been amendment. Now restaurant compulsory they need to charge 5% tax without ITC as per the notification 11/2017. Compulsorily 5% without ITC. I will change your example. Say I am doing a cloth business and I have rented my premises also. For renting, GST rate is 18%, and for cloth, everyone knows the fabric basic rate is 5%. See, I purchased yarn of say yarn, the rate is 12%, and my output tax on cloth is 5%. So I have an accumulated credit because of my duty structure of my input. My rate of tax of input is more and rate of tax on output is less. That credit can be utilized for payment of tax on my other services, this is renting of immovable property. So at the time of taking credit, eligibility needs to be seen. If I am eligible to take the credit, then in that case, I can use that credit for payment of my outward tax, irrespective of the fact whether that credit has been used directly from that business or it has been come from another business, provided you have one GSTN for both, for your cloth business also and for your renting of immovable property business also.
Okay.
Clear? Yeah.
Yes.
Any other participants?
Sir, we have one question from the Khushi Vyas. Okay, so she says that what is the reason behind QRMP scheme? Because we have to pay taxes monthly, and our customer, and due to pressure of our customer, we have to invoice also. We have to upload invoice also monthly. So, what is the reason or what is the logic behind QRMP scheme?
The reason for QRMP scheme, of course, is to ease burden compliances for the taxpayer. For the taxpayer up to 5 crore, say if अगर वो कोई किराना का छोटा शॉप है, say for example, या एक किराना शॉप या there is a barber shop whose turnover is below 5 crore and their SSCs are normally B2C. For them, it's easier कि every month only pay the tax and for quarterly returns file the taxes. Yeah, as a consultant, I would say for the taxpayer who are supplying goods B2B basis, this QRMP scheme is not really helpful. Even I have personally, for all the clients whose turnover is below 5 crores and supplying B2B, we have opted for normal scheme and not for QRMP because invoice needs to be uploaded monthly, payment needs to be done monthly, and practically for those SSC, we have opted for normal scheme only. Only for those SSCs who has a B2C customer base, yeah, B2B customer is very less. For them, they can opt for QRMP.
So the next question, what is the practical implementation of Rule 36(4) in our means consultancy services? Because many are following the same and many are just like, okay, we will do on some later date.
Yeah, on later date will come and it will be notified by the Finance Act 21. Later date will be coming. Legally, strictly, yes, Rule 36(4) as on date has no legal base because एक्ट में ही पावर नहीं है तो आप रूल से कैसे किसी को रिस्ट्रिक्ट कर सकते हो. पर एज अ प्रूडेंट प्रैक्टिस कि you can of course reconcile with your GST 2A and follow up with the supplier who have not filed a return because section 16(2) condition is still there. Legally, the supplier must have paid the taxes for which you are taking the credit. Of course, there are n number of judgment which says if you have paid the tax to a supplier and supplier will be and is as good as an agent of the government who is collecting tax from the recipient and paying to the government, that means you have paid taxes to the agent of the government. That means you have paid taxes to the government and credit would be eligible. There arise tours and travel case of Honorable Supreme Court based on the Delhi weight and the other judgments are also there. Of course, litigation can be done in this regard, but practically we should implement it. We should ask our client to reconcile it to avoid such kind of litigation.
सर कल उठ के अगर फाइनेंस एक्ट ने बोल दिया रिट्रोस्पेक्टिवली डाल देंगे तो
कल को उठ के फाइनेंस एक्ट ने बोल दिया रिट्रोस्पेक्ट डाल देंगे तो इट कैन बी चैलेंज ना. आज के तारीख में मैं ये नहीं सोच सकता कि फ्यूचर में जो है बैक डेट से मुझे रिकंसाइल करना पड़ेगा. बट दैट विल बी चैलेंज एंड दैट इज प्रैक्टिकली नॉट पॉसिबल कि दैट विल.
ओके.
Okay, sir. One question from my side.
Yes.
Okay, sir. My question is that, sir, how you see a future in GST after removing of GST audit?
See, GST audit was just a small part. GST audit was a compulsion by the government, but for the SSC, it is must. Even after abolition of GST audit, all the SSCs who are, of course, not a small SSC of turnover, say 1 or 2 crores, all the SSC are insisting us to do the audit in the same way as we are doing the last 3 financial year, because many of the mistakes were rectified in time, so they can save on their interest. If you do GST audit in such a way that it gives a value addition to your client, आप जीएसटी ऑडिट में बताओ कि सर आपका ये क्रेडिट लेना रह गया था, ये 10 लाख का क्रेडिट है, ये आपका लेना रह गया था, मैं आपको दिलाता हूं, तो कौन एसएससी आपको नेक्स्ट ईयर बोलेगा कि ऑडिट नहीं करो. अगर आपने एसएससी को गाइड करोगे सर ये क्रेडिट आपने एलिजिबल है, गलती से ले लिया, इसको रिवर्स कर दो, वरना बाद में आपको 24% 18% इंटरेस्ट पे करना पड़ेगा, तो कौन एसएससी नहीं चाहेगा कि मेरा हर साल टाइम पे ऑडिट हो जाए. इफ यू गिव अ वैल्यू एडिशन, if you do your GST audit in such a way that it helps the client, if you plan in such a way while doing audit, it saves cost to the client. A small example, say your client is such who are not eligible for credit. Client ऐसा है जो क्रेडिट के लिए एलिजिबल नहीं है, तो क्या आप उसको ऐसा प्लानिंग करके नहीं दे सकते कि उसको अपने परचेज में जीएसटी कम लगे? Of course you can do. Small planning. Say if you purchase raw material from the supplier and the raw material, the supplier is charging 18% and he is paying freight to the supplier only, then on that freight also the supplier will charge 18%. So you can tell your client, sir, ask your supplier not to charge freight. you will pay directly freight to your transporter, then in that case you need to pay only 5% tax instead of 18%. You have
I
saved
see.
13% of your client. So these are small planning mistakes can be done. So in future, the client will insist on doing the audits from GST perspective also. So value addition can be done. Secondly, as I told, GST audit is only a small aspect of GST. There are n number of things which can be done. Litigation will start in GST, and you will see a huge litigation that will be coming. Litigation practice is also a very good practice that would come in future for us as a professional.
Sure, sir. That's a point to be there. So I hope if we do not have any further question, then we should move towards the vote of
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Sir, I have a question. I have got a question from a participant. As per section 17(5), ITC on construction of immovable property is blocked. But can we claim credit for repairs and maintenance of the property if we show it as revenue expenditure?
Yes, you can claim.
Another question, do financial or commercial credit notes need to be reported to the IRP?
No. These are non-GST, so no need to report.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so now moving towards the vote of thanks. First of all, I would say it was a very knowledgeable and insightful session because many of our doubts were cleared by sir by way of presentation, and many of the questions were addressed by the sir. So it was a very knowledgeable and insightful session. Yes, of course, we got updated with the recent changes made in the GST Act, and I think it will be very helpful for all of us in the articleship and after we will commence our practice in this field of indirect taxes. So, I want to thank C. Anish Goyal sir for giving such a knowledgeable, wonderful, and informative session. Sir, very big thank you to you that you cleared all of us many doubts of all of us. Second, to entire Surat Vikasa team for organizing such a event, such a webinar. Pankti Goyal for coordinating the event, and last but not the least, big thank you to all our participants, all our audience who join us for this session and for being patient listeners. Without you people, this event would not be possible. So big thank you to all the participants, and I hope that you all enjoyed. Again, sir, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
your time, for your session. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks a lot, sir,
Okay,
for
well.
the wonderful insights.